Hello, welcome back to another Mailbag segment where we're answering your questions. If you ever want to get involved, you can do so on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even drop comments on our YouTube videos. You can all head to zerohanger.com for all the latest as well. And today I'm joined by Jack Jovanovski. Jack, how are you, mate?
Good, Mitch, how are you?
Good. We'll get straight into it with some questions right in the middle of the trade period as well. So plenty of fans asking what the latest is on a few of their clubs. And Jakey Beattie's question is, are Port Adelaide willing to trade more than pick 24 for Radaglia, or do they let him walk to the preseason draft?
Yeah, pick 24 is probably the price they should end up paying. It is a pretty high price as is, and obviously Port do have the leverage in terms of Radaglia being off contract this year. You could walk to the preseason draft if you needed to, but I think this is probably the price that Port should accept.
Yeah, I think the Cats do pretty well out of that. If they get picked 24 for Radaglia, it wasn't always Definitely. in their best 22. And they've only got one really draft pick at the moment, so they can kind of double their hand, and which is something they'll certainly need to do before the draft. And if they're asking for anything more than pick 24, I think Port have every reason to kind of threaten the preseason draft as an avenue that they will go down.
Yeah.
There'll be a bit to play out, and the Cats are obviously being a little stubborn, but I would like to think it centres around pick 24 as well.
Yep. Next one's from William Alistair Finishes. Can the Crows pry Harrison Petty out of Melbourne with their current hand?
They certainly could. They've got a draft hand that I guess could tempt a few clubs. But the thing is, Melbourne already have a pretty good draft hand of their own, so they're not really looking to get into the first round anymore. They're probably happy with their trio of selections already. That being said as well, Petty's contracted, and they've said earlier this week that no player is going to be involved in a Shane McAdam deal, which is kind of where these Petty, talks have kind of surfaced. He's from South Australia. He's talked about maybe wanting to go home at some point, but he's signed for the next 2 seasons. And Melbourne are pretty firm that they don't want to be involving a player in that deal. And then the other factor of that is as well that Adelaide's interest comes because they don't want any more picks. Like, they don't want to be trading Shane McAdam for another pick and adding to their draft hand. They want players. They've got more than enough picks to go to the draft to. And now it's just a matter of either changing that around a little bit. So that's probably why they're interested in going up the order or bringing in a player. So there's a bit to play out there, but you'd have to think that Petty would be a good fit for them given their key position needs.
Oh yeah, you can definitely understand why they'd want to bring someone of Petty's quality into the side. Obviously there's links there in terms of his origin, and also obviously like you said, you don't want players more so than picks, but you also understand why the Demons would be pretty hesitant to let him go. It's a pretty quality option up forward for them when he was healthy, and he definitely was missed during that final series.
Yeah, they've got a few SA boys, the Ds, so Cade Chandler, Alex Neil-Bull and Tom Sparrow, but Petty's probably the one they'll keep pushing for. Next one from Kieran Strachan, more on Ginnivan to the Hawks, so more of a take, but obviously Jack Ginnivan's name has popped up a little bit since Lachie Schultz's request to get to Collingwood.
It has. I think it'll pop up more once or if that Schultz to the Pies deal does go through. The Hawks definitely seem like a potential landing spot if that does happen. Obviously, Tyler Brockman is likely to find his way to West Coast at some point, so there might be an opening there in terms of a small forward need for the Hawks, which is obviously a position that Ginnivan has played pretty well. Obviously, he's sort of saw his senior opportunities at the Pies dip a little bit this season with the emergence of Bobby Hill. Obviously, Bo McCreary is already there, and obviously Schultz comes and makes it all the more harder for him to break back in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you look around at maybe a few clubs, and it's likely going to be Victoria. It doesn't sound like he'd be involved in any kind of deal going the other way to Freo. The Tigers maybe. The Dogs, I think, would like a small forward just to complement their tools along with Cody Waitman. But if I'm tipping anything, he's probably just going to be at the Pies next year, you'd think.
Yeah. One from Matthew McKernan. Kangas must target Nick Haynes from GWS and one of their picks plus paying the full salary.
Yeah, so that kind of salary dump deal, I guess it's something that's been floated for Haynes, given he's supposed to be on close to 7 figures this year. The Giants might want to kind of be a bit more flexible with their salary, and that might be holding them up a little bit for next year. And then what's the last year of his deal as well? So if they can offload him to a club who takes on that full deal, that would certainly be appealing to them. But a bit like that Jack Bowes deal with Gold Coast and Geelong last year, the Giants actually might be having to give up something as well for someone to take that deal on. So they won't be giving up a first round pick, you'd think, but it could be a second round selection. The Roos are already pretty comfortable in that first round of the draft as well. So it'd be an interesting one for them to take on. Brady Rawlings was actually asked about Nick Haynes earlier this week, and he kind of said, well, he's not a player that they've thought about exactly that, but they would be interested in adding experienced players to their best 22, especially given they've lost Ben Mackay as well. So he's an option. They'll add Toby Pink, it sounds like, as a rookie selection out of the sample. So that is an option they're already adding to their backline. But I don't mind the Haynes one for the Roos, but they don't want to kind of get themselves tied up in any salary cap issues, although it is just 12 months and they might have that wiggle room to kind of satisfy a deal there.
Yeah, I think I like that for the Roos, especially if they can gain sort of a later pick as well back. I think it makes a lot of sense. And Nick Haynes, I still think is very serviceable when he's been out there for the Giants. It's been, interesting to see his sort of decline in terms of playing opportunities at GWS. So don't mind that one for the Roos. One more for you from Brody M. Will Jeremy Sharp or Ollie Lord get to Freo this trade period?
Ollie Lord, I wouldn't think so. Contracted from Victoria, so seeing go the other way to Freo. And the Dockers probably might not have to push too hard for a key forward. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do with the talls, given they've got Luke Jackson locked in long term. Sean Darcy's a free agent next year, so if they re-sign Darcy, then Jackson's obviously going to be playing a lot more forward. And then they've got Jai Amos already there. And then you add in Matt Taberner once fit. So Lord would be a great pickup, but I don't think he's one. Jeremy Sharp's an interesting one though. The Dockers have kind of said they're not really looking to trade him in this year after pretty high levels of interest last year. Could be as a delisted free agent if he doesn't get a new deal at the Suns or a rookie selection through the draft. They lose Liam Henry and they lose Lockie Schultz, so maybe some outside run and a player that can at least play in the forward third or allow someone else to play in the forward third because he's quite versatile. So I don't mind the move for Freo. West Coast are another one. Obviously, he's a WA boy, and they'd be loving just to get in any player that has some experience in that 20 to 22 age bracket that can kind of play or at least add to their selection dilemmas. So I think West Coast could be one, but again, they're just like Freo. They've kind of knocked back the thoughts of trading for him.
If you had to guess where he's playing next year,
I think the Suns certainly could offer him a new deal. They've got a lot of players unsigned and they'll be probably recommitting to a few of them. And among that crop, he's probably one of the better names. But I think maybe that's where it sits with Freo and West Coast as well, is waiting to see if he actually gets delisted by the Suns, and then he potentially could be up for grabs as a cheap option or over the SSP over the summer if they want him training. Yeah. That wraps up Mailbag for another week. Obviously, as mentioned, if you want to get involved, you can hit us up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or in the comment section of our YouTube channel. Thanks once again for watching, and obviously you can keep track of all the latest trade news on zerohanger.com.